Hi there, this is Jim the Keys Bartender. For our triumphant return, once again, to the Kelly household, we aren't announcing numbers anymore.
Because Jim keeps goofing them up.
No, and I'm saving the episode name for a while so I can tell you what happened today. And Jenna and I, you may have noticed the last bunch of episodes, Jenna wasn't in on them, and it wasn't because of any separation or anything or any disagreement. It was because I had a lot of extra work, and I had to shift the shows to daytime for that time, and Jenna has a very busy job as a finance manager at one of the most popular and busy aqua marine utility vehicle places in South Florida.
Motorsports and Marine.
Motorsports and Marine.
Yeah, actually the largest.
Riva.
Yes.
You know what? I'm happy giving them a free pitch. Someday, I hope to get something out of it.
Right?
Maybe
Wouldn't that
a
be
jet
nice?
ski. Wouldn't it be nice?
Oh, well, yeah.
I'd have to get a lot more listeners and stuff like that. But I did gain a little more listeners today. I'm going to tell you why. But we're going to catch up with Jenna in a moment about the things she's been going through. But just last week, I worked with a woman who's an English teacher at our local high school.
Oh, okay.
And she's the daughter of the owner is Molly. You know Molly?
Yes, I do.
Molly, very, very sweet
The daughter
girl.
of the owner of the catch.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I have to say, it's weird. Molly is a friend of mine. I'm 56 years old. I'm friends with a 17-year-old girl. Yes.
She is
a sweetheart.
And she's really spunky, and she's got she's got gumption.
Yeah, and she's probably a genius IQ with that. But she suggested to my friend Tracy, who works there, who's also an English teacher at Coral Shores High School, that I would be an excellent speaker for her class.
Oh, fabulous.
Yes. And she asked if I would speak to her class. And I didn't know it meant to all of her classes.
Oh.
Which I don't have a problem with numbers. I used to talk to hundreds of people at a time. I was a maitre d', and obviously I'm doing a podcast.
Right.
A lot of people don't understand. You may think I had a major speech impediment. I just did that right then. I had a major speech impediment growing up. I had a hearing problem, and then the speech impediment derived from that, and how I spoke through it. But I became more comfortable speaking in public because I don't know exactly. One of those things that I was afraid of, and I just did.
Face your fears.
Yeah, facing fears. So Tracy asked for me to come to her class today. Well, I was going to do it on Tuesday, and I realized I didn't have enough time to do it on Tuesday. And I couldn't guarantee it on Tuesday because I had to fill in for a friend. I was very busy.
Yes.
Holly had filled in for me. Holly, a coworker at the Catch, a great bartender, the Catch where I work at.
Yes.
That has wonderful Martini Mondays if you want to go.
That's very true. But
yes.
But Holly filled in for you when you were
when I was in Poland. And
right.
it was a labor of love, meaning they were very good about giving me 2 weeks off without much difficulty. And when you're in the service industry, not like a regular job, you can, I mean, I don't know about that, but the show must go on.
Right.
So someone has to fill in for you. You can have at a software company, your head engineer take off. You're just not writing code that week.
Right.
That's the main thing. But when it's in a restaurant, you got to make drinks.
Right. Yes.
So,
that's
one of those things, and that's what Holly did. Yeah. And I did that for her, and I had to, we had to rearrange her schedule, and then I realized she wasn't coming back until Wednesday, and I couldn't really, that would have been too much to come up and do the talk with the high school students.
Right.
And I was terrified. You know why? Because I was out of my element.
Right, yeah.
I was out in my element. I could talk to people my age in different groups.
Right, especially you're really good at talking to people that are sitting there getting drinks from you.
Well, yeah, and I've done speeches in front of the Rotary.
Right.
And I've done it in front of a crowd, a wedding crowd. They're expected to hear me.
When it's on an academic thing instead of on a professional level.
Yeah, and I was going to be talking to high school seniors. And I'm thinking, wow, how terrifying if I get judged cruelly by them. That I'm not engaging, that I'm not interesting, and not worthy of their attention. And I think I passed this guy when I was coming in, didn't I? No, that wasn't you? Okay.
Tyler just got home.
So So I went there today. I planned. I did I wrote the speech down. I did. I did about 5 hours of writing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 5 hours of writing, and then I did just by myself, talking to myself. Which once again, I think I'm displaying some of the symptoms of what do they call that when you're talking to yourself and stuff like that?
Dementia?
Not dementia as much. That's psychosis.
Psychosis? Okay.
Psychosis, maybe. Or is there any other
when
one?
You talk to yourself?
Well, I did the speech. I ran through the speech 4 times.
Okay.
By myself. I didn't record it because I hate listening to my voice. I hate listening to my voice. But I went to see how comfortable I was doing it. I was checking, and a couple times I made a reference to. It was about resilience. I wanted to be supportive of these guys that are going through a tough time. They're going through a transitional period, right? As seniors.
Right.
And they're going to go into college. They were in collegiate courses, preparing for college. And I wanted to be supportive of them and try to say, you probably get a lot of speeches about, being goal oriented, how to succeed in life and how to do things like that. The one thing I never got a lot of training in was resilience. How to bounce back when adversity rears its ugly head.
Okay.
And what I did is I mentioned a couple people, and when I did the speeches, I started with the definition of resilience. I'm going to break it down. I'll try not to make it boring. I picked up 6 individuals. And one was, I talked about, now I'm going to use it on you because the kids, these were high school kids and they knew who they were.
Oh.
They knew almost everyone who, I dare say everyone I was saying. So I said in the 1996 Olympics, this 14-year-old girl tore 2 ligaments in her ankle. Yep. And she had a vault to do. Yes. And she could have very well bailed out. Do you know who that is?
I cannot remember. Carrie Strug.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And then they did that. Now, I was going to say that, assuming that she was going to say that the girl one of the girls in the classroom didn't know who it was. But when they said it, I'm like, I'm going to go with the flow. And then I went and I started talking about a writer. I shouldn't say writer, so don't wipe that from my mind. A woman in Britain who was raising 3 young kids, was nearly homeless. Yep. She wrote a book.
I already know this one.
Who is it?
J.K. Rowling.
Yes. And the girl did the same thing.
Yes.
It was 1 or 2 girls, and they were all coming up with it. The girls were good, and the guys did too. And then I mentioned a young actor who was he was up and coming. He was comedic. His star was rising, but he kept on getting in trouble for drugs. Kept on going to rehab, kept on coming out, getting in trouble with the law.
Robert Downey Jr.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I went with that and I pointed at him and it engaged him.
Right.
And I hadn't planned that. I had planned that I was going to say that. And then I did the other one was, someone who went to school for, radio, television, and film. Her first job.
She got fired from.
That's
Oprah Winfrey.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, they gave me a little more time to say some of these things.
Sorry.
And said, you're not going to. No, that's fine. That's fine. Like I said, I was saying that's fine. If someone said that and it was engaging and someone said it, I'm going to say she was told that she was never going to make it in television.
Yeah.
And then.
Stop it. My husband just called
me. The next one, I mentioned a basketball player who was really big in the 80s, but still hot in the 90s, diagnosed with HIV.
Magic Johnson.
Yes.
Yes.
And then not only did he persevere, he convinced the NBA that he was able to play, and he changed the attitude about him playing.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. And you have resilience. And then I mentioned an inventor. And the inventor you're going to know right away anyway, because almost everyone knows. But I didn't know the kids would know it too, but I'm pretty sure they did. He failed 10,000 times making his invention, and I think he said 10,000. He may not have counted 10,000 and stuff like that. But after persevering all this time, he created the light bulb. And
oh, damn it.
Thomas Edison.
Oh
my God, you got hung up on Thomas Edison?
Yeah, I did get hung up.
Okay, you know, the funny thing about it, in my practices, I kept on saying Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, oh, see. Yeah, but I was about to be like Eddie.
2000.
I was about to say Ed.
It's Edison.
Edison.
And then I go, wait, now this, I say how important, and I pointed to that. I had it written on the board, how important resilience was. It doesn't make you not a dick. And he was a dick. Because he was in competition with this guy called Nikola Tesla.
Yes, he was.
And Tesla was a proponent of AC transmission. And Edison was DC.
Yep.
And in order to try to, muddy the waters for AC, Thomas Edison would put on these demonstrations where he'd electrocute animals.
Yes. And
using AC.
And start things on fire on purpose.
Yeah, on purpose with it. Yep. Which you could do that with DC.
Yeah, but it would take a lot longer.
Yeah. But
DC, it just means direct current. Versus alternating.
Yeah, an alternating current is a much more efficient way of power transmission from a generator to a.
Alternating current is what you would have in your house. That's AC. Now, DC is the current that you have in your car.
Yes.
Or your boat. Right? It's a direct, straight,
No, but the prevailing
current.
Transmission lines thing became, Tesla had the right idea there. Mm-hmm. And Tesla wasn't trying to disprove anybody.
Right.
Tesla was just doing his thing, and Edison was trying to get all the glamour for himself.
If you want electricity to travel a very, very long distance, it needs to be alternating current so that it pulses, because otherwise DC would run out by the time it got to its destination.
Yeah, too much resistance.
Right, exactly. And then, of course,
that's why resistance. He creates resistance and all that. But that wasn't the point. Was I was terrified that I would lose these kids and do it, and they were engaging, and they were talking back and forth, and we're doing this, and I'm talking. I tell them a little story of my life. In the middle of it, I tell them the rundown of how my father was in the Navy and how I went to 16 different schools, blah, 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 blah. And then, how I achieved did well in high school and then college and Navy and the Treasury.
Right.
But I said between college and the time I was 44, I developed a really nasty drinking habit. As I'm drinking a beer now, telling this story, but I was drinking, at one time I would be drinking a glass of bourbon.
Right, I was going to say
glass
hard
of bourbon.
liquor.
I'd have a bottle of bourbon with me and do that. And you know what? Left to my own devices, I might do that. Find myself, put a bottle of bourbon out and just drink that. But I have set up my life to be, and I didn't explain all this stuff to him. This is a modified one.
Right.
And I told him the story. I said, it got so bad, and I explained, I said, does anybody know what a blackout drunk is? And they kind of got the idea, and I said, okay, it's pretty much when you anesthetize the higher order thinking part of your brain, and you're running on the motor functions of your brain. The medulla oblongata, the lower limbic systems are running.
Right.
And
makes
you're just,
you remember
your
to
reptilian
breathe.
brain, your reptilian brain thing. And you're still moving around too.
Yeah.
You're still moving around, but you're not using a major part of your cortex right then. You're not doing any higher thinking or something like that.
No, you're pretty much, your medulla oblongata is telling your body to breathe in and out.
Yeah.
And if you have to pee, you'll pee.
You just do, go ahead. You go ahead and do shit.
Absolutely, right.
So, I told him about a story when I was, and I think I mentioned this to you. I had been out, and I woke up the next day, my whole hand was bruised.
Yes.
I went to the doctor, and I got x-rayed, and the doctor says, well, Mr. Hand, it looks like your hand was run over by a car. And the guy could smell my breath and all that stuff, and I go, well, he says, and the guy's looking at me, you piece of shit, probably saying. I didn't say that to the kids.
Right.
I did say dick and all that stuff. They said they could because they're seniors and they say shit like that. So the guy's probably thinking, you piece of shit. You got so drunk, you got your hand run over and you don't even know it. And people look at me and then they said, oh no, I didn't have any, it was all soft tissue damage. And I said it healed up in a couple days, after ice and stuff like that. And this girl in the back of the room goes, you're Superman. I said, no, I'm not Superman. I probably was so relaxed that my hand laid flat.
Right.
And stuff like that. And there's a way you do it. Your hand could do it. And it's a certain amount of pressure.
Well, they always say that too. Like usually the extreme drunk that's in a car accident is the one that survives because their bodies are so relaxed. Mm-hmm. That they don't fight the reaction.
Yeah.
And then they're not pulling things, breaking things. I mean, they just
not tensing the muscles.
Right. I mean, they just kind of flop their way on through it and then they survive.
So I told that story and then I went into how important goals were and all that stuff. And goals are important, but it's important also to get by when adversity hits. And that's what I thought. And I thought the main thing, adversities that you come through in life, these young people, whatever happens, I just want you to know the biggest strength you have is being able to bounce back.
Right.
When that happens. Anything that happens. Not to sit back, and I explained one point, I didn't do the whole speech, but the guy that sits outside of Walgreens. You know what I'm talking about? A Walgreens or
like a specific
Publix.
guy?
Yeah, there's one main guy
Okay,
that's
yeah,
around
I know.
there.
I think I know which one you're talking
I'm
about.
talking about. I knew him when I first came down here. He was a handyman. He had a handyman company.
Yep.
And he, the woman he lived with, decided she was going to move, and he didn't want to move, but he still wanted to drink. And he decided his decision was to become homeless in order to drink and not move, not be hassled. And I told them, I said, if I did not change my attitude in 2070, Hoagie, do you want to say something? There's a microphone right there.
Yeah, he's sniffing it.
Yeah, the dog's in. If I didn't do anything about that would have been me. And I had decided that I wanted to break that cycle of my life when I got separated and divorced. And as I'm doing the whole speech, they're all looking at me, and I'm thinking, oh, my God, I can't believe I still haven't engaged. And I said, boy, I got to wrap this up before I lose them, because I think I have pretty much exhausted. I have everything written out. I had ideas on pages. I didn't put my glasses on to look at it because I wanted to be flowing. And they're looking, and they're still staring at me. And I'm thinking, did I lose them? Are they zoned out? Are they staring at me because they can't believe this guy's talking? And then I just said, you know what? At the end, I just wrapped it up with a line. The line was, the greatest determiner of your success. And I explained all the things about, you could be a successful doctor, this, that, unless you're happy and things. And there's always going to be setbacks. And people fall. Wealthy people fall.
Yes.
Kings and queens.
Yep.
Everyone like that is your resilience, your ability to come back. And so your greatest strength and determiner of your success will be the strength of your resilience.
Absolutely.
And I said, thank you. And I got they all clapped. Now, I didn't get a standing ovation, but I did get a note from them that they said I was the best speaker they had so far. And it's only mid-October, but they did start in August. And they want me back.
That's
and they
cool.
want me back for the rest of them. So I thought that was exciting.
Well,
I went there.
I'm trying to clap on the microphone. Clap, because that's really cool.
Yeah, you know what? They were such sweet kids. I always want to, if I was going to give a message, I didn't want to be hacked. Hackneyed expressions, just like it, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going and all that shit. And, you got to set goals and be better the next day. And I just explained, and every so often I, explained, all that stuff. And I try to arrange it. And I was terrified. The terrified was not speaking in public. Was not worrying about my content.
You were terrified of rejection of those kids.
Rejection.
Right.
And there were people that were so foreign from when I used to be that age. I mean, that's almost 40 years ago.
Right.
How can I relate to them? How can you say to someone, listen, I understand you've went through difficulties already in your young life.
And you're going to go through more.
Yeah. But you're learning to do it, and I'm looking at them. I see them so often, and I don't know what the look is. If the look is, yeah, I get you, or the look is, it goes, I can't wait until you're done. I'll just get the hell out of here. But no, they were lovely. They were lovely kids, adults. I didn't say kids. They were lovely adults. They were very mature. I'm always surprised when I run into them that they have plans and that people talk about their, how the kids today are, weak. Or, what do they call that when they're
entitled?
Right.
I would
say. They
say
didn't behave. No, maybe as a group. But the group I spoke to, if you're talking about the generation, maybe the group I spoke to, they seemed determined and goal oriented,
right.
and they had things to do. They had things to do and places to go. There's a lot of shit going on now that they didn't have before. When you go to college today, a lot of times you get saddled with debt. It's second only to a mortgage.
Yes, it's ridiculous.
Only to a mortgage.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, even though a degree is worth money, it doesn't have the titular value. When I say titular, the title, like on a property,
right,
where it appreciates. Because think of the guys that got 30 years ago or 20 years ago that got computer engineering degrees when SQL was the language. SQL Server. Their college degrees, if they didn't learn anything after that, even though they're still using SQL, may not be worth shit right now. And I realize that, you know what? Maybe we're really hard on them because every generation has its challenges. And their challenges coming up are going to be big ones. There's going to be big challenges coming up. We're going to take a break right now, and then we're going to come back. We're going to catch up with Jenna about the shit she's been going through, and other things. We could talk about the high water, the Fantasy Fest is coming up.
Fantasy Fest is coming up.
Yes.
Yeah. We can talk about Keys housing market.
Oh, Keys housing market.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Talk about bartending, a bunch of double shifts.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We'll be right back.
If you want to get your information about the Florida Keys straight from the locals who live here and the ones who love it here, we've got you covered. Visit 43keys.com as your source for everything Florida Keys. Sign up for our newsletter and you'll always be up to date on all the Keysy stuff that's going on down here. Go to 43keys.com. That's the number 4, the number 3, keys.com, and sign up today.
Hi, this is Jim, the Keys bartender. We're coming back.
Our pee break.
Pee break. Yeah, I didn't pee.
I know, me neither.
I may have peed my
But it was
pants.
still a pee break.
Yeah, well, we're going to post a picture during the break. Tyler has fish to fillet, and there was a nice adult manatee.
Yeah.
Floating off their dock, and we're going to post that picture there.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
He is a big boy, or she.
Well, we did have a mom and a baby in here for 2 days straight, and they just kept kind of surfacing. You could tell she was teaching the baby how to kind of float and sink and float and sink. Yeah, it was really cute.
Okay, yeah, and we're going to post that picture of it, but that's life in the Florida Keys. Another thing about life in the Florida Keys is that recently...
King Tides,
yep. Which I've been doing research. There wasn't a lot of mentions of king tides more than 30 years ago. Well, I mean, I'm just thinking, Jenna just said that she doesn't have enough of the information, but anecdotally, if you were going to build a property or a bunch of properties on an area, right?
Yeah.
You would not probably build it in a place that flooded 30 days in a row.
Well, and specifically, we have a neighborhood here in the Upper Keys.
Yes.
And honestly, every neighborhood in the Upper Keys has their own little stories. Some pieces are higher, but we are an archipelago, right?
Yes.
So,
a chain of islands.
What's that?
A chain of islands.
An archipelago is a chain of islands that's created by dormant, expired coral reefs.
Yes.
Right?
That's the reason why they're a chain.
Right. So therefore, the volcanic islands. The volcanic islands is because of volcanoes erupting, and then So here, we don't have that kind of rock. There's no volcanic rock, anything like that.
There's no new land or anything coming up, just like on a volcano. Where you have magma coming up and adding to it,
adding
where
to
you
the
get
land.
like the Hawaiian Islands.
Right. Hawaiian Islands. Well, not all of them, but yes. Volcanic. But this is an archipelago, which basically means that it used to be, millions of years ago, a coral reef, just like what we have outside.
Yeah, the reef outside
now is a reef, but what we are at is also used to be a reef. That's why all of our rock, you reach down, you grab these rocks, you look at them, and they're full of fossils. They're full of shells. That's all coral. It's crushed coral.
Crushed coral
is what you're seeing. Like all of our rocks, crushed coral. Coral dust is actually a problem.
Former protein. That's the reason why I think that a lot of people have problems with their allergies now.
It's like petrified, right? It's petrified coral is basically what it is. But it's cap rock is what they call it, cap rock. And it doesn't settle. It doesn't move down. It doesn't squish. It doesn't whatever. It's cap rock. So the spot that you're sitting on right now underneath us, instead of having black dirt and soil and things like that, sediment rock, things like that, you are sitting on coral rock. So where we're at does not sink. It does not sink. It does not settle.
Do anything.
Right. It doesn't move.
It's like being in a mantle.
Right. So if you were to judge flooding in the Keys, you would have to judge it based on anybody that's on coral rock. Because coral fill, because we have canals, right? So if you were to come down here, you would think you go through all these canals. Yeah. It looks like we live in Venice, right? Where we have canals, and in our front yard is where our streets are, and you drive down and you park in your driveway, but in your backyard is your canal. So what they did is they came in and they dredged them all out with these giant machines. And they did that
in the 60s.
They did it in the 50s, 60s, 70s. They kept doing it,
I know, but 40 years ago, and they did it. And they did it, and I would wager a guess, they did it well above the high water mark.
The mean high water line.
The mean high water line. And there's no way you'd want to build if there were, say, once a year, it goes above this level.
Right.
You wouldn't do it. Because when I first moved down here, and the thing that made me really learn about it was one house. One particular house, an outlier. I mentioned before I went to AA. Mm-hmm. And that back street at the Moose Club, you ever went behind there? There's a road that goes to Caribbean Drive.
Okay.
You pull out, you make a right at the Moose Club in Key Largo, and you go down the street. There was a 3-story house. And it was built, I imagine it was built prior to 2007, because I saw it in 2007.
Okay.
But it always had a for sale sign on it.
Right.
And no one ever bought it.
Yeah.
But it's on a patch of property that's kind of like a scrub land. And there's no grass. Because
it's just rock.
Right? Well, it always floods.
Right, yeah.
And they built that really late. I mean, I couldn't believe they built it at a place that was only, it had to be 6 inches above
the mean high water line, right?
The mean high water line, right. Because by the time I got here, the land surrounding it is flooded for a month.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what's going on now.
So different neighborhoods are different. They have different maps.
I know, but there were fill
from FEMA, right?
Yeah.
And this neighborhood is called an AE9 flood zone, right? Which means that they can never, ever, ever expect in their worst tragedy that they could ever imagine that the water line would ever be more than 9 feet above your mean high water line, right? Which would mean the entrance to my house.
So wait. Your entrance to your house
is 9
to where the dock is over there is 9 feet.
The entrance to my house is 9 feet 2 inches.
From where I saw the water line right over there.
From the mean high water line.
Because, it was right at the dock level. Yep. Okay, it's right at the dock level across the street in this canal, the water level.
Right.
And supposedly, one of these guys who prior I'm friends with on social media, I'm going to call him a denier, said his acquiescence to climate change was it's only changing 1/3 of an inch a year.
During king tides. Yes.
No, wait. 1/3 of an inch a year means at low tide, the high watermark is 1/3 of an inch of a year. Everything changed. The low tide changed 1/3 of an inch. The king tide changed 1/3 of an inch. It just goes through all of that. Just the highest one goes 1/3 of an inch.
Well, usually only get king tides in October, November.
In 100 years, it's almost 3 feet of rise. And it's been accelerating recently. But I won't argue the science and stuff like that. But there's neighborhoods here that have, 2 feet of water?
There's a neighborhood called Stillwright Point that's north of us. It's about mile marker 105.
Yeah.
And that was a neighborhood that was developed prior to this neighborhood. Right? And it was dredged, and most of the houses were built on land made of fill, and everybody knows what fill is, right? So
fill is where they dredge the canals, they put the fill in and raise
on the land, and then they made streets out of it, and then they put roads in the middle of those streets, and then they build houses on each side. So therefore, each side is technically a waterfront property, right?
So yeah. Well, I mean, ideally, if you're an engineer and you're a bank, and if you're a bank and you're going to finance properties, you're going to look and say, well, are these viable properties? Can we get a mortgage on it? Can we get I guess when they did it originally, it would be a 20-year mortgage. A 20-year mortgage. And then later they came to 30-year mortgages. Right. Because, I mean, that's the logical thing. But money makes the most logical choices. And now a lot of the luxury properties at the lowest lying areas,
of course, the luxury properties would usually be bayfront properties.
Bayfront are now
waterfront properties.
Or waterfront properties are
underwater.
Or underwater.
The bottom of the houses. Now, keep in mind that now in new construction, anything new here, you want to build it and you want to build in a vacant lot, you have to go by what the elevation certificate says. And if you are in an AE9, like we are, the elevation of your property has to be higher than that. But you still have to have flood insurance because you live in a flood zone, because it's an AE9 flood zone. Now, there are some X zones in the Keys.
What's an X zone?
An X zone means it's never going to flood. They don't ever foresee that it will ever flood, no matter what.
I don't believe there's any X zone in the Keys.
Well, but there are some. Right?
I mean, for the next 50 years.
For the purpose of, well, right, because FEMA has not remapped yet. If they do remap, 90% of Key West will be in a flood zone. So, like here, I have to have flood insurance because I am 2 inches over the AE9 flood zone. I'm at 9.2. But if you are at 8.9, 8.10, you cannot finance this house.
My house is at 12 feet.
Yeah.
12 feet. And it probably could be 12 feet, 10 inches. But that flood zone, we might be.
You very well might
in
be.
10 years.
Well, you might when they remap and
right,
and determine the different things. So, bringing this to the Keys housing market is what we were talking about, right? Like my house is completely financeable. You can get an FHA loan, a conventional loan, any kind of loan, you have VA loan, anything.
It's beautiful.
Because it's higher than the flood zone, right?
Yep.
But you have to be able to put insurance on your home in order to finance it, right? Mm-hmm. So therefore, if you cannot put insurance on your house, you cannot finance it. There's not a mortgage company out there that's going to buy that loan.
And insurance companies are sticklers for statistics and math and science.
Right.
They will always go by science. They don't go by wishy-washy statistics.
Right. So if you look at my house is elevated about 3 feet.
If you can't get insurance, you can guarantee you that they believe that there's a good likelihood.
It's high risk.
High risk.
Right. So if my house was not elevated 3 feet like it is, right, then you wouldn't be able to finance this home. Well, that's the problem with all of these other homes. As you're looking down these canals, these houses are not elevated. These houses are put on a slab because back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, when they were putting in these houses and selling off these properties, there wasn't an AE9 flood zone. Back then it was 5 or 6 or 7, which they were still fine with. So now that's
first of all, it never flooded that high then.
It did not.
So there's a reason. There's a change that occurred. We don't know what it is.
Right.
I mean, I have my beliefs what it is. You have your beliefs what it is.
I don't have a belief of what it is.
Well, I have a belief what it is.
Truth.
You don't have a belief because you don't have enough.
I don't have enough information. The only thing that I can tell you is that science and scientists, they study statistics and they study water flows and why. And here's the thing: is that they didn't have all that education back in the 50s and 60s when they built a lot of these houses. And they didn't realize that if you did have 7 tropical storms in the Atlantic basin all at the same time through a 6 weeks period, which we've had here, especially this year. But
that what they did have was over 100 years of experience of where it was flooded, and they can look at the trees and they can look at the vegetation.
Yes.
And you tell by the vegetation what type of saltwater incursion occurred. So you can see the mangroves, how the mangroves are dying when we go further down through the Keys.
Mangroves don't die from salt water. They actually recycle.
No, mangroves don't recycle, but the vegetation,
you don't see gumbo limbo trees on these streets.
No.
You don't see a lot of the tropical, like, actual trees. And we're not talking about mangroves.
You don't see mangoes. You don't see all that
stuff. You don't see any of those fruit trees or anything like that when you get into those areas that have flooding. Because that salt water kills.
Well, supposedly they did have those before.
Absolutely. And then they die. You got to rip them out, you know, but they were planted.
Supposedly a lot of these places down here, just even when it's low tide, 3 feet below the houses, salt water.
Exactly. So
3 more feet.
I'm at
that's it.
Is like
from the beginning
end.
When it rains 6 inches and stuff like that, it's salt water.
I mean, brackish, at least.
Oh, yeah. That's it.
You know?
Well, that's what you got to have in mind when you do that.
But this is what you have to consider. If you did ever want to move to the Keys, which is absolutely fabulous, if you get a waterfront property, that's great because that's what everybody comes down here to do.
Just keep in mind, though,
that every time you build here now, every home has to be concrete stilted. Because if, in fact, you were to ever have a horrible natural disaster, that water can flow right through your yard and under your house.
Or you have an abnormal, what they call now a king tide. And in one of my posts, I had said, what are they going to do next in order to change the king tide? What are they going to change it to the emperor tide?
Right, yeah. What are you going to do next?
Or what's even worse than emperor tide? The Jesus tide. Mm-hmm. The Jesus tide will be the highest. Oh, maybe.
Jesus spelled backwards is just sausage.
Sausage. Okay. The
It's
Jesus tide will be 8 feet above. Oh, what's that?
Sausage.
The way you did it looked like a jerk off thing.
Right.
Okay.
It's a sausage.
Okay.
What? We're not going to get into the discussion.
I think someone was explaining to me. That just reminded me of a conversation I had about someone explaining something to me. And they did the jerk off motion. Yeah. Like that.
Yeah.
So you had a difficult, we have been apart for a couple of weeks. We've been separated.
We've been separated.
We've led separate lives.
Yeah.
Like that White Nights, that movie do you know that from the 80s?
Oh, what?
Gregory Hines, Mikhail
I know, he was the dancer guy, right?
Baryshnikov.
Okay.
And it was called Separate Lives. Oh, no, it was called White Nights. And there was a song called Separate Lives, and it was Phil Collins. We were leading separate lives for 2 weeks.
I know. Where have you been?
2 weeks. I know.
Jeez.
It was horrible.
I mean,
it was horrible. But you know what I had? I had Papa Joe.
You did have Papa Joe.
I love Papa Joe. I love you. I love Papa Joe. And Papa Joe was there, and that was my connection. And I wouldn't have met Papa Joe if it wasn't for you. And Papa Joe's awesome.
You know, I think the last time that I was even on the podcast was when I was helping Tyler build the staircase on the side of the house. And
we had all that sound going on there.
Yeah.
Oh, I was fucking up the sound thing, and I told you that for it was opportune time for the sound to go down the shitter,
right?
Because some driver accidentally loaded. I think it could happen. I think a driver could happen in the middle of a podcast.
I would hope not.
Yeah, I think it could.
Maybe we should get you some like McAfee or something like a.
What would happen? This was one called Realtek. It was called Realtek, and I was looking at it and go, "Wow, I've seen Realtek. I know Realtek, but it's not what I'm used to seeing." So I'm going, and I couldn't option my audio in. I mean, it's taken years for me to figure out this. It's going on. It's going to be 3 years in about 5 months that I started a podcast. I started fucking around with power mics. Now I just started using dynamic mics. I have my soundboard. I have this. And I thought I was going to have to get a new computer. I got a USB connector for the thing. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. So what I did is I deleted the driver that controlled my audio.
Ooh.
And it fucking came back on. The audio selection. And it was my hosted soundboard selects the audio input. And it makes a crystal clear sound. Almost crystal clear. Whatever I do. This is my voice, believe it or not. If you think it's fucked up, fuck you, motherfucker.
That's just what he sounds like.
That
so,
is.
sorry.
I'm an asshole.
And then me too. That's just what I sound like. I have a little
she
kid
does
voice.
sound like that.
I sound like that.
She's 4'11".
I am.
She's as tiny as she sounds. And I am as giant as I sound. I am the size of Manhattan. I'm Godzilla. No, I'm not. I'm only 6'4".
No, he's only 6'4".
I'm buff.
Right? He's a big tough guy.
I'm not that tough a guy. I'd like to think I'm a tough guy. But I miss coming here.
Right?
Yeah.
Stop staying away from me for 2 weeks.
Because you bust my balls. I like it because it makes me right-sized. No pun intended.
That's my 6-foot personality that comes out.
Yeah. I need to be.
Did I tell you I got a thank you note from a customer that said that one time?
Right.
I didn't know whether I should be offended or if I should take it as a compliment, so I just chose to take it as a compliment.
What was
it? But it was that I got a thank you note from some guy who I helped fix his ATV. We're talking like 15 years ago, maybe back when I was a service manager.
Yeah.
Because I'm a dirty mechanic by heart. So I got a thank you card from a guy when I fixed his kill switch on his ATV. And he was like, I appreciate all of your help and your 6-foot personality. And I was like, well, that's great.
That is a compliment.
I took it as a compliment.
Combined with what he said in the beginning.
Right.
It is. 6-foot personality. You took control of the fucking situation.
Yeah. Well, he was having a meltdown and he couldn't figure out what was wrong with his ATV, and then I fixed it, and it was something.
You know what? Every so often, I just learned how it was a new skill I had. With certain things, I could take control of the situation, but it's only recently I learned how to put on my daddy pants.
Oh, daddy pants
or mommy pants. In
right.
your situation,
yeah,
mommy
I had
pants.
Both.
Yeah,
I still
mommy
do.
Pants, mommy.
I still do.
Mama bear and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, this is it. Daddy pants. I'm going to take care of this. Got to go and take care of the situation when you do it.
Yeah.
And I guess it is kind of a meditative experience because you have to go to a place that you're normally not. I'm not normally always there.
Yeah.
Taking care of things.
Yeah.
I just want to go by the wayside.
I just take care of things. I just take care of
things. No, I want to take, listen. I want to just ease on by the road. What's that from?
Ease on by. Oh, God.
The Michael Jackson version of The Wizard of Oz.
Seriously?
Ease on by the road. I'm going to ease on by the road.
And
Ain't
Jim
got
is now
nothing
a singer.
Unless something soul. I'm going to ease on by the road. I mean, it was such a cool song. I loved it. I loved the Jackson 5 and Michael Jackson when I was a kid. How happy was life then? For me, it was happy. Jackson 5? Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me?
You're crazy.
I know, but it was great. It was great. I don't care how fucked up it got up in the. I'm sorry you fucking played around with little kids and stuff like that.
You know what?
What?
Did you see that thing about Elton John? He just his book just came out. It was like his book. I think it's called Me. Mm-hmm. And it was like this huge autobiography and he had somebody help him write it.
Yeah.
And,
of course.
Right. But I mean, he just, transcribed or whatever. He spoke about it and whoever wrote everything he said. And he was dishing on people and he was talking about how he had known Michael when he was younger. And that, he's really talented and he was amazing. But then there was, he had some party or event or something that he, invited a lawyer to, one of the, whatever highfalutin celebrity lawyers. And the lawyer showed up and his accompaniment was Michael Jackson. And that was who he brought with him to the party. and Michael Jackson was like weird and like off base, and he couldn't tell what kind of drugs he was on, but he was convinced that he was being drugged, and he called him like mentally ill. He was like, he was obviously mentally ill. Well, and then he also said something really bad about Tina Turner. That he was going to go on a tour with Tina Turner, and that she kept yelling at his band and saying that they were playing Proud Mary wrong. And that the rest of his band members were like, we are not going on tour with this bitch. She's fucking chaos. Like, they called her like...
Well, wait a second.
So it's funny how you just like...
You know what? Tina had to deal with Ike Turner for years.
Right.
To deal with that. And you know what? There's a lot of coping skills going with a lot of abuse and stuff like that. I'm not discounting
what she had dealt with. I was just saying what Elton John was writing in his book.
I'm feeling a little uncomfortable since we picked two African-American entertainers.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
I did.
You know what he did? He also talked about Freddie Mercury. And that Freddie Mercury, you know, that him and Freddie were friends, but they weren't really, really close. And he didn't find out that Freddie had AIDS until Freddie was already sick and dying. And that he tried to go visit him as often as he could. Yeah. And that he could only basically stand it being there for like 1 hour at a time.
Well, I think there's a little self-hate going with Elton John because Freddie actually
died of the...
No, but he actually came out a lot earlier. I mean, Freddie let it kind of soft-pedaled, letting it be known. Yeah, the Elton John, I swear to God, he was in severe denial. He was like fucking Liberace. Study Liberace sometime. Yeah. Liberace people going, oh, when is Liberace going to find a woman? When it looks like a fucking man. No insult to gay people, but no. Liberace was so closeted. Yeah,
but that was really
I had my ex-father-in-law said, they went to see Liberace in the 70s or the early 80s and said he was fabulous. And they didn't know he was fucking gay. Blue suits. And not that there's anything wrong with it.
Of course not.
I know, but part of the thing that kept gay people back, it's a lot of these great entertainers didn't come out.
I don't know
if they all came out at the same time, they have to say is, you know what? We're not going to listen to any of these entertainers. No Queen, no Elton John,
but
no.
Even when George Michael came out, it was still really early. Like it was still a hard time. Like a lot of people did not want to accept. It's the same thing with Magic Johnson. You were talking about that earlier.
Wait a second. Everyone knew.
Yeah.
Everyone knew that. What's his name? What did you call him?
George Michael
was gay. Wake me up before you go. Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? If someone might go, wake me up if you go to the dance club. I want to dance with you. No. Still, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I'm not saying that. I'm not kidding about it.
Times. Like, it has not been.
Oh, come on.
It has not been socially acceptable.
I know, but it was a lot of bullshit. But Freddie Mercury came out earlier.
Even when Ellen came out.
Andy Warhol, way early. There's a lot of people that, you know,
and they paid the price for it.
And now, what's his name? Waters, the director.
Waters?
Yeah, the guy that did Pink Flamingos and all that stuff. He was gay such a long time. What a great guy that guy was.
But, you know, you have to even think, too, like, I've had this conversation a million times with, like, Damon and Papa Joe, you know, because they're a couple.
Well, and Papa Joe had to wait because he was a, he was a fucking state trooper.
Well, right, but he's also the same age as you. So he wasn't raised with it in his mind.
No, but he did. He came out. He changed. He's proud. You know what? I'm proud of it.
Right.
I mean, if he was an entertainer, if he was an entertainer, he would have came out 30 years ago.
I don't know about that because what happens? What happens with the backlash that you get, and then all of a sudden in the career that you worked so hard for, and you're gonna have all these judgmental old fucks giving you shit, and then all of a sudden they're not gonna buy your records anymore.
Fuck them.
You know.
Fuck them. Oh, come on, the Culture Club.
Even.
Karma Chameleon.
Karma Chameleon. Yeah, that's
Karma Chameleon.
But even Freddie Mercury did not admit that he had AIDS until like 2 days before he died.
Well, that was AIDS. That was a stigma. But he did. He pretty much admitted he was gay way earlier than that.
Yeah, well, people would ask him questions, and he'd be like, "I thought this was about my album. This shouldn't purpose." I mean, he would kind of get around.
I know. Well, that was a movie and stuff like that. But you know, neither here nor there. You know what I mean? I understand, and that you know what? It's a valiant position.
Now
but Oscar Wilde had to do it over 100 years ago.
That's like incredible that those people would have the
Oscar Wilde had to do it 100 years ago.
But now, okay, so for example, let's say Miley, right? Nobody's judging Miley.
Who gives a shit?
Right, because it's 2019.
It's done.
Because it's 2019.
It's done.
And they're so desensitized to it now. People are like, okay, well, that's just normal.
Ellen, you know what?
And Ellen suffered a lot of backlash.
Ellen did something because she's friends with George W. And I had problems with the guy. I have to say I had problems with the guy. But I'll tell you, if Michelle Obama likes the guy, fuck, Ellen can like the guy. Don't give Ellen a hard time for liking George W.
Right, but
you know what? I've had a coming of age about a come to Jesus moment about George W. He believed what he believed, and he did what he did because he believed it. Okay.
Right.
He was not a traitor. He was not a traitor.
No.
Ellen could be friends with him. Don't get pissed off. I mean, there's a lot of people out there, like celebrities, saying shit about him. And so it's total bullshit. And you know what? The Obamas like him. And you know what? Barack likes him. Because you know why? They're good people. They're good people. He may have different ideas. Well, we have friends that are different. Elijah Cummings died today. Elijah Cummings. I
saw that.
A very good man. A very good man. And some of his friends were some of the biggest of the Orange Guy supporters. Some of the reporters. And they're saying that he was their best friend. So I get in disagreements with people on Facebook that disagree, and they support this guy. And one of my friends said some mean stuff to a woman, called her stupid, who supported him. And I said, you know what? There's no reason to get mean-spirited. We get vociferous about our decisions and what we do. We don't have to be mean-spirited about it.
Why can't people just be entitled to their own opinions? Like, you know,
they can. We can argue about them, but we don't have to cast aspersions on who they are. And they call them pussies, assholes, communists, whatever fucking things.
Just because somebody's born in the Bible Belt and that's how they're raised and they're in their late 50s or late 60s or whatever, their beliefs may be different because that's how they were raised. It doesn't make them bad people.
And I'm still going to believe what I believe, and they're going to believe what they believe. And I'll say in the end, I go like this: when I'm going to argue with someone that says, "Listen,
there's no reason you can't agree
I realize you're going to pull your facts from where you're pulling your facts. I'm going to pull my facts and stuff like that. But if we have a basic understanding on how people are supposed to treat each other, let's treat each other that way.
So then it doesn't
and it's going to be very difficult in the next couple of months because something's going to turn one way or another in the next year. It's going to turn one way or another. We're going to have to decide whether to accept it or not.
Right.
It's going to accept it or not. It's going to be the way you want it or the way someone else wants it. You're going to have to accept it. If you don't accept it, remember, if you don't accept it, we don't start a civil war. We don't start fucking killing people. We're not a banana republic.
No. I just think that people should all agree to disagree. And if you
don't
want to associate,
but we
with
have to agree. We have to agree to have a civil conversation.
Right.
I know. And then when you start calling it just. We're going to do what we're going to have to do. Listen, this is the end of the show. I'm not going to call it an episode level. We're going to call it.
I'm going to say that I would like to end this show with what Ellen actually says to everyone.
What?
Be kind to one another. Be kind.
Be kind. And you know what? I'm going to call this episode with the speech I called. I did today. I'm going to call it resilience.
Yeah, resilience.
And I think America needs resilience.
Right.
Be able to bounce back from whatever perceived
absolutely
thing that happened. We're
and
going
if
to call
you can
resilience.
be kind at the same time,
yes, we could do that.
You won't make enemies.
Be kind, rewind.
Be kind, rewind.
Yeah, there was a
the
show.
VHS.
There was a show called. There was a movie called Be Kind, Rewind.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to thank you, Jenna Kelly.
Oh.
Say goodbye.
Oh, Jim, whatever your name is.
Jim Horan. I said my name, and you didn't say.
You said I'm going to thank you, Jenna. So I didn't give you shit about
I told you I said I had a speech impediment. Give me a break. Okay, thank you very much. We're going to come back to you next week.